It's Anahata. How are you? I'm so delighted that you have decided to tune into another episode of Have a Moment, where we explore the intersection of personal growth, science, spirituality, and success. Yes, they do interweave. And I'm the founder of the flow state technique. Today, I have a truly inspiring guest, and we don't know where the conversation is going to go. Her name is Lynda Barrus. This is real, raw, ragged. She has an extraordinary story of resilience. So we're doing overcoming adversity and finding flow. And this is Have a Moment with resilience. So I hope that her words bring you comfort. Her journey spans over 15 years and includes multiple life-altering challenges. She's had 2 cancer diagnoses. Is that a word? Diagnoses?
It is now.
Including a recent stage 4 breast cancer diagnosis, way back, divorce, single motherhood, raise your hand if that applies to you, career changes, a lot of personal losses, but through it all, Lynda has demonstrated remarkable resilience. She has been focusing on personal growth and embracing each moment. And so she's here to just share her real, raw insights on overcoming adversity and living life to the fullest. Lynda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone who's tuning in. So blessed and grateful to be here today to be able to share my story. And I know that those people that are meant to hear and take what resonates with them and move forward in creating the magic in their lives, as well as what I've found, and just inspired to share with everyone that I come in contact with.
Awesome. I think this is going to be a really, really amazing episode. So I want you to, if you can, Lynda, take us back to 2008 and share, what happened after the birth of your son.
Yeah. So there are a couple different things, big moments in that time frame. So I was in a marriage that was very toxic for both of us. And that led up to, you think that making amends and coming together, and, we ended up pregnant, and I thought that was going to be, not what I expected. I remember getting that. This is 2007. So leading up to 2008, sat in the doctor's office after that like having him come tell me that I was pregnant, and just my whole world shattered at that moment. And then the pregnancy, it was just a really rough time, rough pregnancy. And leading up to the birth of my youngest son in September of 2007, October of 2007, I found a lump. In November, it kept getting bigger. And I was like, well, I just had a, newborn. And so just going to kind of let it go. And that brought us into 2008. In 2008, finally, it was feeling like a quarter size. And so went in, had it checked out, biopsy, all that good stuff, and got the call. And I didn't even need to have the call. I just knew, I knew what it was. My body was telling me this is what we're going through, and we're breaking through this. So in 2008, I had the lump removed. I went through chemotherapy. I went through radiation with an infant, 2 teenagers, and a very rocky marriage. Still continued to work, scheduled my chemotherapy sessions on Wednesdays so that I could work on Thursdays and Fridays, be sick Friday, Saturday, start feeling better Sunday, go back to work Monday, right? So looking back, knowing like, what were you doing, Lynda? Like, that's insane. Didn't really allow time for my body to heal. So I did that all in 2008. Radiation started in October, took me through the end of the year. 2009, I don't remember. It was healing. I brought in the energy work that I did know. I used a lot of crystals and oils and holistic methods that I knew of back then. to heal me from, not from the cancer, but from the chemo and the radiation.
Mm-hmm.
Working through those emotions, working through the stuff with my now ex-husband, and just getting through life, right? So it was a matter of it was just living. It wasn't, there was no quality whatsoever. It was just making it, can I stay afloat? Knowing that there were bigger, better things. I'm not, this is not taking me down. Those waves are
Mm-hmm.
not going to pull me under. I'm going to continue. So that was the 2008, 2009. Kept moving forward, getting a little better. 2008, it took me to 2012. Finally asked for a divorce, knowing that,
Mm.
a lot of the angst and the resentment that was building between my ex-husband and I brought about those emotions, right? We know, like, stuck emotions in our body, and
Mm-hmm.
just continuing that resiliency that, none of it was going to let me down. I'm not letting anything else. There was chronic chronic pain, diagnosis of fibromyalgia, testing. I could have kept going with the testing to see. I just finally was like, nope, I'm done. Um, I don't want to know anymore. I don't need to know anymore.
Yeah.
Uh,
How did you, through those times? I mean, good Lord, you're facing all of this and you're still working. And around 2008, 2009, whenever that was, how did you tap into, I mean, obviously later you've really come into that place of flow, but how the heck do you remember what you did to tap into that inner resilience in those moments where, like, most people wouldn't get that far? And I mean,
right.
I'm just saying, like, you can handle maybe one or two of those things, but all of them at once. Do you recall how you tapped into your inner resilience? Was there a moment or a special transformative practice? I teach, as you know, hypnotherapy, NLP, energy work. But back then, did you know about that yet? You mentioned trapped emotions, but holy moly, let us in on your secret.
Oh, well, I don't know, like, as far as the terminology, the vocabulary of things that I did, I had no idea what it was that I was doing. I trusted what was coming to me. My claircognizance is always, since a young age, been very, very high, very spot on. It's just a knowing, this is what you need to do. These are the steps that you need to take. And so even then, meditation, clearing my mind, always have been, those absolutes, right? Like the thoughts, that the spiraling thoughts, and being able to stop those, and knowing, having that knowing of getting to a space like Joe Dispenza talks, there, that, like, we get to go to that space of where everything is but nothing at the same time. And being able to get to that space was my serenity. That was my safe space. However that looked, in whatever moment it might have been, if it was chaos with the kids, if it was an upset parent, or a student that was having a meltdown, or a coworker, a teacher that I was having conflicts with, whatever it was, I got that knowing, this is where I get to tap in. If it's taking a breath in, if it was going and locking myself in the bathroom for a little bit, finding those times, those little moments of going within.
Yeah. And then
Breathe.
the pandemic hit in
Yeah.
2020, and like,
Yeah.
what the?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what happened? You said that you were inspired to suddenly start a new business.
Right.
How'd that shake out? What happened?
Yeah, so it was an interesting path. So I've had this tie. I went into special education, into teaching. So I started out, I'm going backwards a little bit. And I started out with my career thinking that I was going to go into the medical field. And so I took classes, and I had always gone to school, always had some sort of schooling going on. So I did medical assisting, kind of took some introductory nursing classes until I got the information I needed. Message came in, like, shift, you get to go into teaching education now. So I did elementary education probably up until like the last 2 semesters, and then I was like, oh no, message came in, shift to special education. And so I shifted and I did all of that. Special education was, it was a tie that I really am not sure of how that, I didn't know what it meant for me, why it was that I was doing that. And in just right before I graduated with my master's in autism spectrum disorders in June of 2020. So here in Utah, we closed down March 13th or something like that. And so finished up my classes, but I was doing that 18 credits a quarter working, and just finished that up and was teaching. And I knew that there was more, always know there's more. And breaking through that fear, knowing that the fear on the other side of fear was what is my next path? What is my next journey? And
now, at this point, sorry to pause you, were you in remission? Everything was fine? When was that closing door, if there was one?
So remission, I was cleared. I want to say, that's a good question. 2009, 2000, maybe early 2010. It took a couple years. I was taking some hormone medication because it put me into menopause. And so one of the things that the Western medicine says is that we need to give you another pill for this or for that. So that was 2000, I want to say 2010. And I had decided not to take that particular medication and just use my knowing, whatever I could find, if that was herbs, elements, whatever it might be, stop that medication. So 2010 was kind of the last time I went and saw an oncologist. So officially done with that. I did go in on occasion when I got a nudge. I was supposed to go in and get mammograms yearly, one diagnostic and one just a regular checkup. And those were periodic. Yeah, there were some years where I was like, no, I don't go this year. And just really felt into what my knowing was.
Were you born with your knowing? I know so many people try and strive to be clairsentient, or, I'm clairsentient as well. There's so many people that are so disconnected. And if you're like me, I've been like this since I was a baby. Were you always like this? How did you?
Yeah, always. It is come with me. Yeah, I'm working on making that connection. There's spots, I don't know if this is for you as well, but there's at a younger age, I call it like Swiss cheese. Like there's spots where I don't remember everything, and I'm working on connecting with that again, if it is meant for me right now. But there are times, I had medical things when I was younger too. And just that knowing of this is what you get to do, or you get to resist, or, pitch a fit here so this doesn't happen, kind of thing. And just certain activities, certain situations where I got to trust my intuition when I was young, 4 or 5 years old. I'm remembering those. Shut it down probably around 12, really blocked it out between 12 and 14.
Why did you do that? For me, it was because I thought I'm weird. I don't know about you, but I was like, no one else is doing this. Maybe there's not something wrong with me, just like there's no place for this right now. How about you?
Yeah, I feel that in friend circles, it was huge then, and not everybody else was talking about these things. And I wanted to share, I wanted to have people to talk about, these things coming in, and everybody looked at me like I was weird. I would have these precognitions, if you want to call it, I would know things were going to come up and happen, and I would say things, and people would look at me like I was like, that's another Lyndaism, that's so weird. And then in the next 24, 48 hours, something would unfold and I would be like, I told you so. But it was got to a spot where I was feeling weird and awkward. And so
Mhm.
stepped back from sharing. And I don't know, thinking about it today, I don't know that I really shut it off. I just shut off sharing it.
Mhm.
It's always been there, right? And for me, I would use it, but it is that uh, it's automatic. It just is who we are when we resonate with that, when we step into it. And it was that resistance of sharing it with others, though, that
Mhm. Mhm.
I didn't voice it.
And now, if you're like me, I just feel like, I mean, we've known each other for so long and I have so
Yeah.
much in common with you. It's ridiculous. But like for me, I knew on a zoomed out level that I should not marry the dude I married.
Right.
I said
Right.
to my mom right before I was going down the aisle, how do you know when he's the one? And my mom was like, oh shit.
Right. Yes.
Note to self.
Yeah.
Darn, my dog is barking.
That's
Um,
okay.
let me pause the video and I will get her
Check
to
out what's
not
okay.
bark, and then we'll come back on that one. And
Okay.
hold on a second.
You stop me.
Yeah, that's fun, guys. Isn't it
Yeah.
always lovely? Real raw, ragged. My pool guy came and then my dog started freaking out. So where were we? Um, did you know that you shouldn't probably be in this relationship, but you were anyway, as as a weird like lesson that you had to go through, or what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, that just gives me truth bumps from head to toe. Absolutely. And that's part of my resilience is knowing. So if you know human design at all, I'm a manifesting generator. I'm a 3-6. 3-6, the threes are all about trial and error, right? We learn from our mistakes and then we get to share them. The six in that spot is kind of the same thing. So my perspective, and if I'm going to stay in alignment with who I am, I get to look at every experience that I've ever had, may it be bad or good. I get to use those as experiences and learning opportunities. And so absolutely, definitely, we my ex-husband and I got together in 1992 and we divorced in 2012. Probably like way too many years for us to be together. It was really whatever learning opportunity he needed. And I knew I was in that comfort zone. I wasn't aware of, needing to take that action at that time. And there was still that lesson that was like, here we are, smack in the face. You need to understand this. And it just, until it really came through. And it came through with a message from my daughter. So once I was ready to hear that, yeah, it was time to move on. And there's no like tiptoeing around anything. As a manifesting generator, I jumped on it the next day after getting that message, and I'm like, I'm out. See ya. Lesson learned. And look back
That's
at that.
so freaky. I'm a manifesting generator,
Uh-huh.
and the man that I was so I had the crazy marriage for a decade almost. But then I met a man and had my only child, Quade, and it was like what I was meant to be as a mother. But my husband couldn't have kids, so I finally had my daughter, the love of my life, and I was just so excited. And she, in fact, did give me a message as well as to this ain't working. And I knew it wasn't working. We weren't ever going to get married, anything like that. But it was like, that's so weird that you say that your daughter gave you a message and that's when you took action. Same here.
That's so crazy, Holly. So many coincidences, so many similarities. And I knew that from the moment that I first saw you. I'm like, yes, I'm going to know you and I'm going to work with you and we're going to do some things together for sure. So it's been amazing. I love how universe, just those things line up, right?
Absolutely. And we
Bring us
still
together.
will. So can we bridge the gap into the 2020 pandemic,
Yeah.
starting a new business?
Yes. Yes. So 2020, I had just finished my master's in autism spectrum disorders. I was working at a charter school at that time, knew I was not going back to a public school and that I was made for something different. And so I started teaching. I had this vision of creating what I saw at the time was a brick and mortar school. Think about Hogwarts, bringing kids together that were, the term now would be like neurodivergent, but bringing the woo and the spiritual, the magic all together. And let's work on, instead of looking at these diagnoses of autism or ADHD as a hindrance, but this is your magic. This is what you get to share in the world. And so I started on a very low scale of teaching classes. That was where my business was wrapped around, was helping families understand their kids and what gifts they do have and what they get to bring forward. And then also working with the children. Started ages 8 and up to teens, sometimes even early 20s, depending on where they were at in their journey. And so I did that for a few years and made connections. COVID was an amazing time to be able to do that. And so had a lot of classes, worked with a lot of kids and families during that time. Once they went back to school, nobody wanted to be on the computer. And so in-person stuff was also kind of hard. People were doing, getting back out living, making connections and enjoying nature and things that they should have been doing and calling in, so I hosted a few classes. Things have pivoted. As a manifesting generator, I get to do it until I don't do it anymore, and I get to pivot and move forward.
I love that. That was something I just realized as I was taking my students through the flow state technique, and part of it is exploring your human design and really getting into your genius zone and discovering, what are my gifts and what are my flaws that I don't have to try and make gifts. And one of them with the manifesting generators specifically that really lifted this weight off my chest was that you and me as manifesting generators, we get stuff quickly. We don't need to take as long as everyone else. Not from an ego point, we just get it. We get it on a deep level. And because of that, we don't necessarily have to finish what we were doing. We can just jump to something else.
Right.
That was like a major load off for me because I was like, oh, that's why I do that. It's not because I'm not finishing anything. It's because I got what I needed from it and I can move on.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, that was huge when I realized that. I've been doing, I was first exposed to human design in 2018. And so just wrapping my head around being a manifesting generator and what that meant, being raised, I believe my mother is a generator. And so that's how I was raised, like shunned almost for not completing things. And so like it was I lived in my not self theme. I lived in this fear that I was going to be looked down upon in everything if I don't complete it to 100% satisfaction for whoever that was, for myself or others, whatever it was. And looking back, like that's a lot of where, like, we know that holding on to those emotions and being in that frustration zone and not living our truest selves, we hold that in. And so I know a lot of living in that fight or flight, fear, freeze, wherever I was at during those times, it was holding these things in. And so then the autoimmune stuff came, and I know that that's tied to the cancer and tied to these other incidences. And also just in that learning opportunity, it allowed me to flow and almost just to be able to, that realization of being a manifesting generator and then being a 3-6. I've not met very many. So if there's anybody out there watching that's a 3-6 manifesting generator,
Lynda, I think I'm a 3-6.
No way. You're kidding.
I have to double check because I've done so many charts over the last couple of months. I'm like, am I making that up? But I actually think I am a 3-6, which would be wild.
I have only met 3 other manifesting generators that are 3-6s. So if you are,
well, I'm going to check it out. And we'll see, guys.
Yeah.
I highly recommend. And as Lynda was pointing out, she realizes now, oh, my mom was a projector. That makes sense. And you can look at your human design chart. I recommend Jenna Zoe. She wrote this book. This was not planned. This was literally just on my desk. This human design book by Jenna Zoe. You
Oh,
can pull
yes.
your free chart there, but she specifically makes it really simple. It's not so heady and like because I learned about human design 15 years ago and was like, meh. And then, it came back in when I was ready, but it's helped me to understand other people in a way that gives me more compassion. And I'm sure based on the stuff you know now about your mom's chart, it's like, oh, I see.
Yeah. Yep. This is why I was raised the way that I was. And these are the things that I don't have to carry this anymore because this is not me. I get to step into these to my authentic self, and also knowing, like, I'm going to bring it back up because it looking at my incarnation cross and knowing what that is and sharing what my purpose is, and stepping into that, I see going back, like, I know why I took the classes that I did and the experiences and the certifications that I have. And so now, like, if we're going to skip through 2020 and having my, dapple in this side hustle, maybe like a hobby business, really, as I got out there and networked and made connections, planted that seed for other people. It's not meant for me to create that brick and mortar place that I had that download. It was meant for me to share it with the world. There's somebody that is going to do it. It's always been this message of it's bigger than me in a lot of the experiences that I have had. And bouncing back from that, because, talking about resilience, not just with the medical stuff, and, there's like, I'm going to jump into this, where going back to the age of 14, I can count 8 different near-death experiences. And for me, a near-death experience is where it takes you from that comfort zone, and it takes you, you got your fear in front of you, and it's like, bam, you are ready to move forward. And they've all allowed me to get from that space, spiritual journey, whatever you want to label it. It's boosted that resilience to be able to support me and move me forward into that next journey.
Well, I've only had one ND, but Jesus, we are alike.
Yeah.
What is happening here?
Yeah.
So you had a car accident in 2021.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm going back, and this has just been a realization for me in the last month, where I've kind of lined them all out. And so I've had 2 near death, like near drowning incidences, 2 cancer and 2 car accidents. And then the other 2 were, now I can't remember what the other 2 were.
Wow, Lynda. So I just realized I did have 2. I mean, the one was definitely like, how could you ever forget? I almost drowned in the Gulf of Mexico and had to be resuscitated. But that one was like, absolutely. But I was in a car accident where they said if I hadn't have been so strong, because I was in color guard at the time, I had, really good upper body strength, that I would have severed my spinal cord. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe I could have died in that accident,
Yeah.
but I didn't. So yeah, car wreck and drowning. What the heck?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what are those experiences? The other one was when I was 14, being a 14-year-old, drinking stuff that I wasn't meant to be, had my stomach pumped, that was the start. I should have talked about that. And then the birth of my oldest son. So those were the other 2. So kind of along those same lines, 14 and then 17. And then the others are a little bit closer, within like 2019, 2008, the first cancer, and situations that I went through with that. I had moments where just one profound moment where I was done really bad chemo, and an injection that they gave me in 2008 that shot my white blood count up, and that was a horrific experience, and just felt myself leaving my body at that time because I couldn't stand the pain at that time. So that took me into that place. That was a big step. So,
Good Lord. And so
yeah,
I feel like you've been through all of this relatively non PTSD-ish, if that's a word. But then in 2021, you said you started having these sort of fight, flight, frozen responses, and it was due to the accident. Is that right? And then, and like, what was happening in your world then? Because goodness, you just came through this big decade, and then you found this purpose that you wanted to start, and you started towards it in 2020. And then a year later, it's like, boom, you're at this place. And I'm
yeah,
sure if you're like me, it's like one step forward, two steps back. And as I always tell people, there's no such thing as failure unless you give up. And there's so many times when it's so easy to just say, forget it, I'm not going forward, especially when you're having these feelings happen to you that seem sort of external to you, because you want to own your energy signature, but it's like, oh my God, like if you're in this anxious state where it's like the walls are closing in, where do you go from there? And I don't know, just explain like where were
yeah.
you at and what happened during that time? And do you think it was from the car accident specifically, or just a culmination of a bunch of stuff adding up?
Yeah, no, that is looking back and really looking at the timeline. So prior to that, I think that was, I don't remember what year we met, and I know that I was doing some healing at a newer level and working on DNA restructuring and karmic restructuring and just remodeling my body. And I remember, I don't even remember what class I was taking. 3 different classes, so I was working with some of your classes and sharing that, and then I was working with somebody else on doing some light codes, and light language was coming in strong. And I I remember, and looking back in some of my journals, I was asking for this fresh start. I knew that I was stuck in this place of contentment, and that's not where I wanted to be. And I was asking for a fresh start. And whoever's watching this, message for you, like, be specific, because it can come in hard and fast. And so I learned this lesson that everything that I ask for gets to come with grace and ease.
Mm.
It
It
came in.
gets to be it gets to be easy. I
It
heard
does.
someone say the other day, and I was like, you
Yes.
know what? It does get to be
It
easy.
does get to be easy. Remember that in everything that you ask for. And it, it came in hard and fast.
Well,
And
I hate to interrupt you, but let's do part two,
like,
because we've covered so much, but I think
yes,
everyone is going to want to come to the second portion,
perfect.
because you ended up going on this solo journey, if you will. So I want to hear all about that. But it's
Like,
like, wow, 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 wow. We've covered so much already. Your story is truly inspiring, and it's clear that we've only scratched the surface. And
oh,
so let's break it up into two. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this powerful conversation. We've got more in store. So like and subscribe so that you don't miss the rest of Lynda's story. But in case you don't tune into that second Have a Moment with Resilience featuring Lynda, I would love for you, Lynda, just to share, where can they find you?
absolutely. So I will share a link tree that will give all of my social media accounts, but most of the social media, if you find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, YouTube, it's all Lynda Barrus, Lynda Barrus, Barrus, sometimes with a 610 at the end. Instagram, Facebook, all of the socials, you can find me at that. But I will share the link tree.
Very awesome. I will put that link in the description of this video, guys. The link tree link. Never heard of that, but it sounds fun. So dive into that, and we will catch y'all in the next round of this beautiful, beautiful session we're having, exploring resilience and all of the gifts that Lynda has to share through her words and her experience. Until next time, love you so much, everyone. We